round of introduction from all the speakers. And before we start that, just to quickly give a brief setting for today's panel discussion. So as a part of the community, what we typically do is we pick up a topic which is relevant for the community, get the experts together, and have a discussion around something which is very actionable, and we try to next build a playbook out of that or create some content which then gets circulated to the entire community. So even though we are having this as a discussion, one of the broader goal is what insights can we capture which can later on be shared with the broader community and create an impact for everybody. So I would like to thank all of you, all the speakers, to come and join us today and contribute for the larger community. Let me invite all of you to do a quick round of introduction. I can start with myself. I'm Bikash Barai, and I'm one of the co-founders of CISO Platform, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Fire Compass. So let me invite everybody to do a quick small introduction. So let's start with Amit. Amit, would you like to do a small introduction? We can go with the alphabetical order in the way the speakers are, but I'll invite each of you. Amit, would you like to do a small intro?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Vikas. Thanks, CISO Platform, for inviting for this panel discussion. Really thankful. So my name is Amit Kodekar. I'm working for Kavamo Group. It's second largest travel insurance company in the world, and I'm working over here as a global head for cybersecurity. We have a very strong presence in most of the part in the world. Travelex is one of our very famous brand, which you may be knowing, and World Travel Protection is also one of the very famous brand which we have. We are a fully owned subsidiary of Zurich Insurance, which is world's second largest insurance company. It's very diverse group, and we are very conservative about security and data protection for our customers. It's been a very small journey for me in Kavamo. Around 4 months back, I joined this organization. Before that, I was predominantly working in broking and distribution and asset management business in India. So I worked for Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited, which is the largest financial conglomerate in India, as a chief information security officer. And prior to that, I was working with Angel Broking Limited as a senior vice president information security. I have been in cybersecurity domain since last 10 years, and it has been a very fascinating journey for me in cyber, wherein I'm learning new things on an everyday basis, and currently having a very good global exposure in terms of cybersecurity. So yeah, it's been a nice journey. Thanks,
So Amit,
Vikas.
thanks Amit for the introduction. So one thing which we could do is we broadly divided today's conversation into four major parts. One is discussing on the top challenges which today's CISOs are facing, identifying some of the top attack vectors as the second thing. Third thing is building that right security architecture with a focus on detection and response, and finally discussing the success and failure factors for building an effective detection and response program. So
Right.
what I was thinking was that along with the introductions, considering that this is online, and it will be easier for people to relate better if you probably add a little bit more on the first topic itself. So I would request each of the speakers to do a quick 1 or 2 line intro, and then also discuss about some of the top challenges which you are facing as a security practitioner. So Amit, it'll be great to hear from you a little bit on some of the top challenges which you want to talk about, which you think today CISOs are facing, especially in this today's newly kind of changed world
Sure.
in multiple
Yeah,
contexts.
yeah, sure. Because I think the major challenge right now, which we are having, is about the scenarios post COVID-19. and how we can handle the workforce from the situations which have arrived after COVID-19. And the major thing is that not only about the various things like giving the access in during COVID-19 situation, how we are giving various tools and technologies to the workforce for allowing them to work from home. But the major challenge which is coming after COVID-19 is about the threats which we are facing, specifically about the advanced threats, and how as an organization which is spread across the world, how we can actually tackle that kind of a challenge when kind of a new threats which are coming on a day-to-day basis, how we can handle those threats. That is really becoming a major challenge. One of the things which I would like to highlight to the panel and while our discussion, that I'm pretty much sure that and everyone will be agree that last 4 months after this COVID scenarios, the attack surface and the attacks have increased dramatically and drastically. And these attacks are not the traditional attacks which we have seen in the past. So there are new and various kind of attacks which are happening. So the major challenge is that how to identify those attacks first of all, and what kind of mitigation strategies we should have in place so that we can defend those attacks. So the major challenge is that first is about how we can identify the attacks on a real-time basis, what are the mitigation strategies, and second is that what kind of a preventive action we should have in place so that these kind of attacks can be detected and prevented in near future at a much more better way. So I think these are some of the challenges which I feel those are present, and I look forward from the panel to discuss further on this.
Thanks, Amit. So Anand, it'll be great to get your thoughts on the top challenges, and you can do a quick 1 or 2 line intro and share the top challenges from your perspective. So Anand, we are not able to hear you. So in this new world, this is a challenge which we face. Uh, in the pre-COVID world, we could have got together in a conference and then could have done it on stage. So Anand, we are somehow not able to hear you. We'll move to Balram and come back to you again. So Balram, over to you. What are your thoughts on the top challenges?
Uh, Hi, I'm Balram. I take care of IT infrastructure as well as security in Manthan. Yes, already the Amit was told like about work from home. So this is I think this is a major challenge to all companies when we enable work from home option. So we say work from home, so the users are connected to their office network or cloud infrastructure or AWS, it may be in any public cloud through their home network. So when they connect to home network, so how secure is that network is? So then what about their devices? Is that devices are upgraded, the firmware is updated, or their wireless network is updated? So this is the one of the thing where I feel their machines, their network, one of the challenge where I'm seeing it. And when I say the users are working from home, there is one more challenge where their personal laptops or desktops also may connect to network, right? So then that's one more challenge. And when we see the now there will be a users they use for personal usage if they connect to internet in their home. So then there because of that there will be a phishing attacks, there will be a ransomware attacks in their machines. So that's where one more challenge where I see. So from my side,
That's great.
because
Thanks, Balram. So thanks for sharing that. Navin, a quick introduction. Navin is one of the co-founders of Ojas. Navin, it'll be great if you could do a quick small introduction and then talk about anything which you would like to highlight in terms of any of the top challenges which you see the industry is facing.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Vikas. Hi, Balram. Hi, Amit. Hi, Amit. So my name is Naveen Kotkir. I'm founder CEO of August Cybersecurity. Uh, August is a cybersecurity services company. We started about 12 years back. So we do a lot of work in the cybersecurity for a lot of companies in India, in and abroad as well, US and Middle East guys. Primarily, we do a lot of work in the financial services space and for a lot of mission critical client and companies guys. Recently, we got acquired by the NSE group, so we're now part of the NSE family. So it has now given us more focus to work on the financial services and the capital markets part of it. So we're doing a lot of work there. In security, we focus on 4 or 5 specific areas. Obviously, we don't do everything kind. So that is quickly August and what we do kinds. So because to answer your question, right, key challenges. I think from a security perspective, there are always a lot of challenges. I think we always had uh, historically as security professionals, all of us. But I think 2020 has been a big change for all of us, kind of. So I think carrying on to the point what Amit said, right? Things have changed, scenario has changed, the pandemic has changed. So a lot of the theories and controls that we have put into from a security perspective, I think all of that has been impacted to that extent. Right? So my biggest challenge, I think, is to a certain extent, I don't think we'll recover from COVID. I think this model of remote working and all that, I think it's going to continue even if things go back to normal kinds. So to a large extent, I think how work will get done in India and globally, and I think has fundamentally changed. So to a certain extent, yes, things will normalize and people will start coming back to office. But I don't think people will go back to completely how things were in 2019 kinds, right? So I think fundamentally the way work will happen has changed, and I think we'll see more of it as we go ahead, kinds, right? So in that context, I think the security domain has also changed a lot, right? Both on the security practitioner side of it, right? So new risk areas, people working from home, controls that you have at home and all that. So I think that has changed, and how we manage that will change. But also in terms of, because everybody is working from home, and as Balram said, the attack surface has increased, the threat actors have changed, the threat landscape has changed. So all of this has changed significantly as well, right? So I think managing all of that for now and in the future, I think that is going to be one of the key challenges for all of us in this domain and industry. That's my 2 bits.
Great. Thanks, Naveen. So
Yeah.
let's move on to Nitish. So Nitish, it will be great if you could do a quick 1 or 2 liner intro and share some of the key challenges which you see the industry is facing as of today.
Sure. Thanks, Vikas and team for inviting me. And a quick introduction. My name is Nitish Goel, and I head the IT risk for Ocwen Financial. It's a top 4 mortgage company in US and reporting to CIO. So in a nutshell, I'm sure you would all know we are like wall for IT, right? So we are the warriors to ensure that the IT risks are minimum, and if they are there, we remediate them. So So I was just hearing the other panelists on this call, and I echo with what they are saying. I just want to add what Naveen said and others, right? So yeah, there is a change in the environment, right? There is a stretch in the perimeter, right? Now, most of our workforce is working from home, where our partners working from home, right? So basically, the entire environment has changed compared to 6 months ago, and it's across. It's a global phenomenon, right? And what Naveen said, this is a change, right? But the only thing that I need to add is this change has come at a faster pace, right? Maybe there were organizations or vendors who were looking into this, okay, from long-term perspective, but I don't think they were expecting that all this will happen in sudden, and maybe most of us, including our vendor partners, prepared for the same, right? So I think this change has come. So the challenge that I foresee is while we have stretched our perimeter, the monitoring aspect of it is a big challenge, right? So with somebody on the call said that the threat vectors have increased. Obviously, yes, well, since threat vectors are increased, and we need to strengthen our monitoring, right? But I think currently uh, we need to integrate a lot of our tools to monitor them effectively. So that's not happened, and one thing that attributes to that is the skill set. I think again most of our organizations do not have the required skill set to adapt to this faster change. Okay, and I think that is where we are getting stuck, and then maybe we have started looking out to see if there are organizations who are core into this, because a lot of security or especially the SOC operations, right, are not an intelligence team within the organization. It's more of a support function, right? But then we have organizations who are hardcore into this thing. So maybe those models are currently being looked upon, but the challenge is, yeah, monitoring and the skill gap. That's from my side.
Great. That's wonderful, Nitish. Um, let's move on to Ravi. Ravi, it'll be great if you could do a quick 1 or 2 line intro and then talk about some of the top challenges which you are seeing from the perspective of your experience in the industry as IBM working with so many organizations across the industry.
Hey, thanks, Vikas. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ravi. I work as a senior solution architect at IBM, and I have around 14 to 15 years of experience in this, IT industry from the security perspective. When we go and talk to customers, we hear a lot of stories about the kind of constraints that they have with regards to their security implementations. But what we have seen in the last 5 months is something which is a surprise to everybody. There were scenarios which during our regular conversations we would hear the answers. This is something that we don't see in our system. Remote users are something that we don't believe in. Most of my technologies are on prem. My guys who are sitting over here is on prem. I have a controlled security. But once this COVID happened, nobody was expecting something like this. And now, as rightly mentioned by the other esteemed panelists, there are no boundaries anymore. We live in a world where we don't know where our customers are sitting, we don't know where our employees are sitting, and we surely don't know where the adversaries are. So it is kind of a call for all the security guys to, you know, fortify the security in such a way that we provide ease to our employees and customers, and we make it really difficult for the adversaries to get into the system. And that's what what I see right now is the new thing. I mean, the new normal is, I agree with Naveen. We're not going to have the exact kind of audience in the offices anymore. We're not going to have a complete workforces back to the stations. As I've seen larger MNCs, conglomerates, and all of them saying we're moving to a remote plan now. So the new requirement is to fortify our system, make it easy for us, make it difficult for them, and that's how the world is going to be from here onward.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks, Ravi. So, Rijo, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Vikash. Hi all, this is Rijo Thomas here from Exide Life Insurance. I'm the CISO for Exide Life Insurance. And previous to this, we were ING. And the reason I mentioned that is we have a very strong inheritance of a strong security architecture. And we continue that legacy of strong security architecture at this moment. So that's a brief background about me and the company. But as far as the challenges goes, just like the other panelists were saying, the attacks have changed, much from being a simple kind of a thing. It is now everything is a multi attached to it. I mean, if you really look at it, you have multi-stage, multi-vector, multi-dimensional attacks. And then the challenge comes in for such kind of attacks, you have a distributed architecture across your own data center, across IoT devices, across BYOD devices, branch networks, vendor partners, your customers logging in, and work from home definitely. So I mean, how do you really identify, detect, and respond in an orchestrated manner across all of this. Specifically, we are seeing, because we are in BFSI, we are specifically seeing how do we really control these kind of risks in our vendor partner networks. I mean, you can always share data which is encrypted. You can always do a point in time audit with the vendor risk assessment. But how do we really bring them as well into the ambit of things so that there is an orchestrated way of responding to threats, new generation threats which are coming in? So I guess that is one of the challenges that we are seeing currently.
Wonderful. That's a very important point, Rijo. Tushar, it will be great if you could do a quick small two-liner introduction and then talk about any challenge which you are facing from your perspective as an organization, or anything that you are observing in the industry as a whole. So Tushar, we are not able to hear you. So I would request Sheetal to coordinate with Tushar in case he is facing any issue. So we'll move on to Umesh in the meantime.
Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Thank you, Bikash, Sheetal, and CISO Platform to invite for this session to share our thoughts. My name is Umesh Parshete. I lead the information technology as well as the security function for ASK Group. ASK Group is one of the top leading portfolio management services firm and the wealth management advisory firm. And we have been existing for the last 35 plus years in this market. And we are the leaders in both the areas of functionality. As like that, we are in the financial services, of course, the information security, data security, protection, all those things are, of course, everyone's paramount height of doing everything to secure and bring the safety to the customers' data as well as the enterprise level resources. What I would probably say, there are 2-3 points that I would like to probably, because the rest of the points have been covered by all the my friends on the panel. What I would say, the biggest challenge in current scenario in the COVID hit area, where revenues are going down, income streams are going low, continuity of the operational expenses, by which have some savings are there of real estate, but may not be fully. However, our links continue to be paid, though we are not using it at the office, whether it is MPLS or the internet, not much. And while having that, but we have to beef up our security investments, which is a reverse phenomenon. On other side, the incomes are going low, revenues are not having higher side, and we have to beef up our investment in security to ensure all the kind of new attack landscape that we have without our choice, we had to forced by the pandemic situation to ensure that every end touch point, I would say, whether it is a mobile phone or your own device or a bring your own device or a corporate device, you are connecting to the enterprise resources to continuity, to bring the continuity to the business process. That is the biggest challenge that I've seen. Getting the budget approvals in current scenario for additional money is a top challenge. And the second point I would like to say is, we don't know whether we are breached. Frankly speaking, there are so many CISOs and the security teams and the organization boards, they really don't know have they breached. And that's the biggest nightmare, non-sleeping element. It does not allow you to sleep if you are at a responsible and accountable position. That have I breached? And if I breached, what is my extent of damage? As per the IDC research, there is around $2 billion US. There is a data breach which people have lost. Are we one of them? Is our confidential or sensitive data of our institutional memory is it leaked and available into the dark web? Nobody has any clues in that unless and until people and the companies or enterprises or security officers have applied some kind of controls, and the visibility of information in those areas has been applied. And the third point, which I would probably try and say, is related to the breach only. If there is an incident and it kind of APT kind of or advanced level kind of threats are being cemented in our enterprises, typically we spend months time to identify those incidents, and by the time we identify and take action, we would have already seen the damage, and that is something which is irrecoverable damage. That's something that we can observe, and generally you only regret it. So that is where I will leave this forum with these 3 points on the challenges.
Thanks. Great, thanks, Umesh. Great points. Thank you, Anand. Let's try and see if we can hear you this time.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
so Anand,
Vikash, can you hear me?
yeah, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So
Please,
sorry, some
small
technical
intro
issues. So
no issues.
yeah. So I heard a quick intro. So I'm the CISO of Jana Small Finance Bank, and I have cybersecurity experience for more than 15 years now. Overall, about 20 plus years. Being in the bank, the biggest challenge that we face is working with our outsourced partners. We do share quite a lot of information for business reasons with our partners. Not having an end-to-end visibility of their security posture and not able to bring them in alignment to our practices of managing an incident is the biggest challenge that I see today. So I would like to hear from the esteemed panelists and others if there is any best practices that they have come across, and what has been their experience. I'm pretty sure the other panelists also work with outsourced partners. The traditional VRM doesn't help in the new age threats, right? So having an integrated managed detection and response, I feel is the way forward. So that's the biggest challenge that I see today, is affecting smooth fun.
Thanks, Anand. And Tushar, let's see if we can hear you. We are, for some reason, not able to hear you, Tushar. I would request Sheetal to probably check and see if Sheetal, you could help Tushar. But we'll move on now and come back to Tushar again when we can hear him. So let me quickly summarize. So we got a lot of wonderful points in terms of the top challenges. So I will quickly summarize some of the key things that has emerged. So one of the key things that has emerged is that because of work from home, all of a sudden the overall architecture of, or I would rather use the word landscape, the overall landscape has kind of entirely changed, in the sense today we don't know the attack surface fully. We don't know the we don't know the threat actors always. We don't know where the data is. We don't know where the vendors are. We don't know where the vendors' data is. So all of a sudden, we don't have this clarity of the landscape and the attack surface. So that's one of the things that has emerged in various different languages, which all of you spoke. Then the second thing that came out, which was something interesting, is lack of visibility of where the attacks are coming from. Are we already breached? How do I know if we are already breached? And that's one of the things which keeps us awake. So that's another key problem that has come up. The third interesting point that came up was these multi-stage attacks, because today, because people are using their home systems, or there's all these integrations with so many different entities through partners, etc., this possibility of multi-stage attack and how do we deal with it. We also heard about APT style attacks from one of the panelists. Then the vendor risk management came up as one of the other top areas of concern. Skill set was another area of concern, which had always been a challenge. It remains and it grows. We also heard about data being leaked in the dark web, etc., and how do we look into it? The last but not the least, the growing need to enhance cybersecurity. How do we increase security posture? But budgets are not increasing. So there is a pressure on budget because in most of the cases, organizations' revenue is impacted, but there is an increased pressure on enhancing the cybersecurity posture. So these are some of the broad points that came up today. And in fact, I remember yesterday, Anand also mentioned in our preparatory discussion that in today's landscape, we probably need to think or rethink about both IT as well as security architecture. Given all of a sudden this drastic change, this needs a kind of new architectural thinking. So these are broadly some of the interesting points that came up. So let's move to the next section of our conversation, which is on some of the top attack vectors. And I know already as a part of our first discussion, which had been the top challenges, some of the attack vectors came up. I mean, one of the speakers spoke about multi-stage attack, somebody spoke about attacks through third party, etc. So we will try to be brief here and talk about some of those attack vectors which really bothers us as of today. And in our preparatory session yesterday, there are some speakers who wanted to speak on certain specific topics. So what I will do is I will ask some of them, invite some of them to first speak, and then I'll request anybody else who wants to add on top of it. So in the interest of time, we will go with this flow. So let me start with Umesh. So Umesh, what are some of your thoughts on the attack vectors which kind of keeps you awake?
Yes, so today what we have seen, we were all looking at all the malware-based major threat vector which was haunting us and was happening. But now attackers have probably shifting their gear and they're getting towards non-malware based attacks such as spear phishing, SQL, scripting, command prompt, those kind of areas that they are trying to proliferate into the areas. And like probably due to malware already for last so many years that's been hitting, so we have probably put across good amount of control onto the malware protection. But the non-malware protection is something is more level of advanced level detection that you would probably need. And to know those happening in or visibility in this kind of such kind of attacks, you need to have the probably X-ray kind of a tool which generally scans your body, or a CT scan or a MRI, a similar kind of a tools or solution that you would require to know what probably it's happening in your environment, in your network, in your architecture, in your enterprise, in your resources, while they are getting access, while they are getting updated. So we have seen already 1,000+, 1000x kind of a speed of malware-based files being sent due to phishing, wishing kind of and robo kind of attack in COVID in last 6 months. So in such areas, how do we check what we can probably do? If I specifically spear phishing is a major problem areas, and how much time that do we have to really detect them and respond, which I have said in initial talk that we take months to probably understand that we are getting breached or we are breached. And by the time we are identifying, things have already gone out of our hand. So we need in a similar way, how is the way digital transformation is happening in COVID? The speed is double now or a triple. We need to also have a similar kind of speed for the speed that we need to push to put across how to know what kind of threat vectors that which is hitting us. And we need to probably wear the black hat mindset in our own personal and probably think from their hat and their shoes perspective, and probably move our strategy and actions accordingly. And then the major which I've seen is a major business disruption activities are more now, which that's attack a percentage if I see is around 34 to 36% is business disruption than just putting into a sending a malware and holding it upon onto that particular area. So they are trying to do multi-level insertion of threat elements, and probably trying to identify. And now due to COVID, everyone is working everywhere. Our boundaries are and perimeters are boundaryless, and we have to also have a similar kind of action to ensure that we cover every touch point. That's where I will stop.
Great, thanks, Romesh. And let me get also to Amit. Amit, yesterday we spoke about APT style attacks. So do you see that one of those top attack vectors coming from nation state actors or APT style attacks?
Yeah, thanks. Because yes, APT and ransomware. These are the two things which I'm looking at a great extent. If you can see after post-COVID scenario, there is a lot of increase in this kind of attack, specifically the advanced persistent threats. I have seen, like earlier we were talking about zero-day exploits, malwares, and so forth. But advanced persistent threat, which is something which has increased drastically. If you can go through the recent Trend Micro cybersecurity report for last 6 months, or Verizon cybersecurity attack vector report of last 7-8 months, or even for that matter the entity report, all of them are talking about two attack vectors predominantly, and one is about advanced persistent threat and second is about ransomware. We have seen a major financial conglomerate, I don't wanted to take the names and all those things, globally, who have actually witnessed major ransomware attacks and advanced persistent threat attacks. And during these attacks, we have also seen that the attackers have not only actually taken they have sabotaged the databases of the organization, but they have also
So Amit, I'm not able to hear you. I don't know if the problem.
No, even I can't hear him. I think we lost him.
We'll then come back to Amit. Let me get to Navin in the meantime. So Navin, from your perspective, what are the top attack vectors that you see in the industry? You work with so many organizations. What are some of the top attack vectors that you have noticed? So Navin.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hi, can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I thought I was not able to. You are not able to hear me.
Yes, Amit will come back to you again. We could not hear, we lost you in between. So after Navin, we'll get back to you again. Yes,
Okay.
I think I agree with Amit in terms of what he talked about. I think ransomware attacks you're seeing a lot of places, kinds, right? I think so. Malware and ransomware, the attack surface, I mean, you just need to get to an endpoint to a certain extent. So the attack surface is also large. A lot of the places, a lot of the clients we are working for, so we're seeing that in some form or way. Phishing has always been their kinds, right? So that is also there, which keeps happening. Amit talked about APTs, so obviously that's also, you're seeing that kind. I think all of that, I think we obviously see in the market or always see in the industry that's happening kind. So I think those are continuing in that sense, right? And I think for some reason in these times, I think the attack volumes seem to have gone up kind. I think people are sitting at home, I think nothing better to do possibly. So I think you're seeing a lot in terms of volumes also. We never saw these kind of volumes last year. This year, for some reason, the volumes of attacks on incidents that you're seeing is significantly going on. But the bigger thing which worries me from an advanced threat perspective or attack perspective is more targeted accounts. So we work with a few what I call national critical infrastructure clients kinds, right? And at least there, and most of the people on the panel today are financial services. I think we're seeing a lot of targeted specific accounts from possibly state actors or non-state actors. Right? I mean, those kind of attacks vectors is something that you're seeing more and more kinds, which is worrying, right? Because the resources they can put behind something like that is a lot more than a normal individual or a normal attacker kind. So though that actually I think we're seeing a lot, and I think that is worrying me a lot in that sense.
That's interesting. So, Amit, I guess you and Naveen have some similar kind of attack vectors to share. Do you want to add anything on top of what you mentioned in earlier, and then Naveen added to it later?
No, I think Navin covered everything. So I think, yeah, I totally agree with what he said about the kind of attack surface which we are witnessing. And one
Because,
more.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead, Amit.
No, please go ahead.
No. Arey, you go ahead. No, sorry. You were speaking.
One more thing I would like to add, and that Umesh was speaking about it, that due to the heavy digital transformation, we are seeing accelerated digitizations from employee, consumers, partners, suppliers, and so on and so forth. And there is another element is about the social impacts, like everyone is stressed, anxious, and even from that matter of employees and everyone, right from the homemade, everyone. And there is a huge supply chain distribution which we are witnessing. So there are a lot of effect of the pandemic which the attackers are also utilizing. And due to that, if you can see, the attack vector is changed, but the attacks are something, there are new type of attacks which are coming, and there are unknown kind of attacks are also coming. So this is something which is really a area of alarming for all of us, because we knew about signature based systems, we knew about the systems which can detect the attacks on a real-time basis, but in past sometime we have also seen the attacks where there is no footprint of the attack to be identified by any device. That is what something unknown. So that is really
Great. Thanks.
and that is something that.
That's a very important and interesting point, Amit, and especially in the APT style attacks, that will be very.
What I was
not be very
trying
common,
to
but
speak,
yes.
what I was trying to, yes, I agree with Navin, and Navin and I probably we worked together in Reliance Capital 2009, when they were very startup kind of an organization and very committed organization, and I admire Aegis since then. Now it is part of
Thanks,
NEC. Hey, hi.
Hi.
Amit rightly said digital transformation. Even I said on that, and what Navin has said, the targeted attacks. Because this is where I would like to probably give only one pointer quickly. Now, based on this targeted attack, we are going to receive, or probably we are already receiving major kind of attacks targeting specifically towards APIs that we probably use for multi-digital system towards digital transformation between multiple cloud service providers, third-party systems, partner systems, our own systems exposed, our APIs to collaborate with all our ecosystem. Now that is something which is a next level. I could see it is expected to be a more vulnerability is going to get discovered in those areas. So I would probably suggest in advance, whosoever, of course, everyone is doing digital transformation, ensure that the API related security is part of your design plan and ongoing plan itself.
Very
That's where I
important
would
point.
stop.
Yeah, Umesh,
Yeah.
that's actually a great point which you mentioned. APIs, in fact, even knowing how many APIs an organization has, today people are
Inventory.
clueless.
Inventory is not available.
It's an unsolved problem, not just for APIs, it's for all kinds of assets, right? And that's a major challenge. And on top of it, API inventory is a bigger challenge, actually.
Yes.
So API security, knowing which APIs you have, and then the vulnerabilities and flaws in it, that's on top of it. So Anand, yesterday you were also talking about shadow IT, and just now Umesh also spoke about inventory. Do you want to add anything on that
Mhm.
as an attack vector on shadow IT?
Yeah, definitely, because given the situation that we are in with the COVID type, the accessibility, see, some of us, especially the banks, we were hit with a new reality that we have to allow people to work remote. Given that kind of a scenario, not the smooth access could be established in a short period of time. The end users who are technically knowledgeable could have set up some, shadow IT to do some work or some, debugging or whatever it could be. So those are some of the things in the new realm of things. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So those are some of the challenges that we continue to face, post-COVID situation.
Yeah. Thanks. Let me ask Balram. Balram, do you want to add something on any of the attack vectors which you are seeing as a major kind of challenge?
Hello.
Yes, Balram.
Hello. Yeah, I'm audible.
Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I want to highlight is about the misconfiguration. So I mean to say misconfiguration of the application when say the users now our application almost all everybody has been moved to public cloud, right? So it may be in AWS or Azure or any of the places. So when the dev team or cloud ops team or any of the team when they are configuring the application, if they forget about the default username and the password, so then the application is widely accessible to the attacker, so you will easily able to access that application and get inside, and the entire machine has been down. So this is the where I think misconfiguration where we need to see, that's one of the attack vector. And one more where I want to highlight is about the username and the password. So if the user name and the password has been compromised, so if it has been available in the dark web, so it will also a major attack vector where they are able to access and down our entire application. So is what I was thinking about.
Great, great. Thanks. So I think we got some very interesting pointers. Let me quickly summarize. So in terms of the top attack vectors, which we as an industry and the panelists, we all are bothered about, which has come out are one is malware-based attacks, ransomware attacks, APT-style attacks, or targeted attacks on individual. And also non-malware based attacks which could be through phishing. You can also do malware based attacks through phishing, but non-malware based social engineering, phishing, etc. as well. The attacks on APIs, as well as shadow IT, misconfiguration, and one of the things that came up also is the worry of the unknown unknowns. So if we look into it, and if I try to kind of summarize, the two major kind of group of attack vectors would be one on kind of the perimeter, somebody trying to breach the perimeter, and all of a sudden the perimeter has dissolved and nobody knows what the perimeter is. Then shadow IT, etc. is coming up. That's one kind of attack. Then the second type of attack is on the people. So these are two kind of most, I mean, if I look into all of these could be probably the two kind of groups in which we can put all of these. And when it comes to these nation state actors, APT style attackers, the challenge is that they have, like one of the speakers mentioned, they have a lot more resources. And if you have to secure from them, it's really a very, very different game. So what has happened is they have way more resources. We have way less budget. And on top of it, the challenge is that we don't know our attack surface. The landscape has changed, so we don't have visibility. So this is all of a sudden a very dire situation, a very bad situation. So now that kind of creates or paves the path to our next part of the discussion, which is how do we deal with it. So if all of a sudden the landscape has changed and the architecture has changed, threat attackers or threat actors have a lot more kind of firepower, and we have a lot more constraints. So how do we then build the right security architecture? So let's get started on that. Let me start with Ravi. So Ravi, what's your thought? You are an architect, so let me start the question with you. So how do we build an architecture given the kind of setting which we have got until now in terms of hearing the top challenges and the top attack vectors? How, as an architect, you would kind of design a security architecture to kind of face today's challenges?
Sure, because so I was hearing from the other guys, and what I understand right now, everybody is concerned with at least two things. One is that you know they're unaware of where the threat is coming from, and second thing is there are threats which are hard to tackle. Now, when we have to build a solution around these kind of constraints, we need to understand what exactly are we trying to protect. Now, I heard Umesh, if I'm right, Umesh was talking about, APIs could be one of the things that we need to protect. The other gentleman spoke about ransomwares and advanced threats. Now, when we talk about technologies which can help us do things, we have to look at a combination of something which is an age-old saying, which is people, process, and technology. Our topic, which is managed detection and response, is actually a very good example of this people, process, and technology balance, where we have to look at services from the fact that we have lots of technologies in place. So should we actually go ahead and just buy new products to solve our problems, or is there a way that we can also leverage what we have with us? On top of that, when we talk from the detections perspective, we have to understand that there are things which might happen, there are things which have already happened. So there are two sides of the coin. One where we have to understand what is that is already there in our system. So we have to have a very foolproof security system in place which can help us detect, uh, you know, advanced threats which are happening. These could be threats which are, due to some command and control which has been set up in our environment. This could be because of the latest ransomwares which are going to affect me. So we need to have a technology which can help us understand this thing. And it's not just from the fact, a malware or a ransomware entering our system. This could be a misuse of authentication. You know, my employees are sitting outside. I don't know if they are the one who are logging in. So I need to be 100% sure that I'm able to protect my security from that perspective, that who actually is coming into my system. So from the point where we have already been working on, which is the preventive part, where we have right places, right kind of securities in places, which is firewalls and IPS and all. Now we have to take it to the next level where all these technologies come together and work as a cohesive unit and not as a silo options. So a next generation SOC, require technologies like a SIM with functionalities not just limited to rule-based correlations, but actually taking it to the level where we talk about things like machine learning, artificial intelligence. I was just reading through one of the articles. It mentions that even smaller organizations tends to build up almost half a billion lines of logs in a month. Now, we don't have teams in any of the organization big enough to understand these many logs. So we need a dedicated solution which can help us understand these lines of logs, make sense out of these lines of logs. It's not just writing rules, because the attacks are getting difficult to handle. They are designed in such a way, as the guys were saying, these are customized for the target audience. Now they're designed in such a way that they can bypass your rule based security. So how the security can be so intuitive in nature that when there is a pattern change, when there is a change in how we are going to, understand what's happening, is where these equipments can help us in predicting that this is going to happen from the pattern of what you're seeing. Like, let's take an example. One of the employee logins at a different time than his usual. So we have a baseline. Now, is my system ready enough to first of all let me know that this anomaly has happened, that one of my employees are not doing what he is regularly doing? On top of that, Do I have things in plan? You know, something like, do we have technologies in place that if something goes wrong, I have the right process available? And that is where technologies like SOAR come into the picture. That when something goes wrong, I should have a technology which not just only help me with incident response management, but also reduce my mean time to respond. So while designing this whole architecture, I would focus on two things. How can I reduce the mean time to detection? Because this is my golden hour. This is where I'm able to catch the attack in its first phase itself, where I know that, okay, somebody has entered into my house and I want to protect myself. And then the second thing is mean time to respond. I should have tools in place to facilitate my response process, to help my analyst be capable enough to respond to these adverse attacks and do it in a faster manner. And while I'm doing all these things, I don't want to spend extra time, writing down all what I've done, having to create different dashboards and everything. I want my tool to be capable enough to provide me with all those capacities, because I also have to be audit ready. We work in so many industries, and we see there are industry specific compliances which are there. Now, while I'm focusing all on preventing my infrastructure from getting impacted, while I'm working on increasing my security and everything, I don't have much time left to actually do a separate line of action for my compliance also. So the whole process of managed detection and response is a very finely balanced system, where we're not just looking at detection and response, we are also ready for compliance. That when there is a need for something that I have to put on paper, I have the whole detail. And that is how I'm also preparing myself for the new advanced threats which are coming, or maybe a larger attack which is maybe customized for my environment. So technologies like next generation SIM, SOAR, identity and access management, you know, which is something which has been of late a little ignored, I would say, but something which is of most importance at this point of time, when I have to ensure that it is my employee who's logging into my system and nobody else. Because once somebody is inside, we know what can be done. So I believe with these kind of technologies, we can start building a network. We can start building up a setup which can help my organization be prepared against these advanced threats, which could be really, really painful.
Thanks. Thanks, Ravi. So, Rijo, yesterday in our preparatory call, you also mentioned certain things in similar lines in terms of building a stack. If you have to build a tech stack, which Ravi also kind of broadly touched upon. So, Rijo, do you want to add certain things on top of it in terms of how do we build an architecture? How do we create a tech stack? What should be the essential components of this particular technology stack?
Yeah, thanks, Bikash. So yeah, so while Ravi, touched exhaustively upon all of those things, my perspective is that when you look at it from an attack lifecycle perspective, you have some things which you may need to do before an attack. For example, proactive threat identification. Then there may be some things which you want to do during an attack, which obviously Ravi was talking about detection and response. And also, of course, you may want to focus on how quickly can you mitigate or come back from this attack. So, if you look at the attack life cycle, that itself would give us some kind of an idea as to how our security architecture can be aligned to. Now, having said that, what are the different technologies that are required? Like we were saying earlier, our IT infrastructure and landscape is so varied that getting visibility into all of this is a key. So I'm saying we need something which will give us in-depth visibility into this, maybe one kind of a dashboard. We also need, like he was saying, security intelligence is required, analytics is required, for response orchestration and automation is required, ML is required, AI is required. So we have a whole lot of technologies which would need to go into this, so that we can detect and respond and recover in a timely fashion. Now, like I was saying yesterday, if you translate these technologies into solutions, then you will start with solutions like SIEM, EDR, the entire thing. And also, of course, in the response section, you will come up with SOAR. But also a very important capability that we need to look at these days is the capability of threat hunting. Now, that is something that organizations who are on a higher maturity level are focusing on. So not only technologies at a detection level, not only technologies at a response level, but also threat hunting is a capability that folks are clearly looking on when they are looking at how to overcome the advanced threats which are coming. So yeah, my perspective is more from an attack life cycle, covering all of these technologies.
Great, thanks, Rijo. So we missed one of our speakers last time. We could not hear Tushar. So Tushar, could you please try once and see if we can hear you? If you could say hello. So we are unable to hear Tushar. We'll just check back if we can get him a little bit later. So Sheetal, it'll be good if you could get in touch and check if Tushar's microphone is working. We'll come back to Nitish. So Nitish, yesterday you wanted to add a certain few things in terms of the architecture thinking. So over to you.
Yeah, because so I think most of the panelists covered, but I think what I wanted to emphasize is again based on the changing environment, right, which is a fast changing environment currently. I think earlier every organization would have different layers of defense, which might vary from 3 layers to 5 to 7 layers kind of thing, right? But considering what we are going through, right, I think I would see the 2 layers which need more focus when we need to reevaluate the entire architecture and we need to build more controls. I think one is the perimeter for sure, since it is going to get stretched and we don't know, as panelists mentioned on the call, we don't know who is entering our organization, who is leaving the organization kind of stuff, right? So that is where we need to strengthen our control posture. And the other layer that I would focus would be the endpoint. Again, considering we would have multiple flavors of endpoints, right? It will be your company provided laptop, you have a BYOD, might have a thin client, you would have company machines that desktops which have been provided to your home from office and things like that, right? So that there would be multiple flavors of it. Again, there are aspects of hardening and so on and so forth, right? So I think and again, this new normal would be there for long term, as we all know, right? Naveen also mentioned, right? It's not unlikely that we are going to be back on the same situation. I think it's like blood have been tested by the organization, and they are like kind of comfortable having most of the workflows work from home. So in that new normal, which is going to exist for long, I think while we are evaluating the entire architecture, I would have say that these 2 layers would require more focus in coming days.
Thanks, Nitish. So Tushar, are you able to hear us? Tushar, we still can't hear you, unfortunately. So let's move on. Umesh, you mentioned about yesterday, like why traditional SOC doesn't kind of satisfy the needs of today, and also any other thoughts?
Correct. So typically what we generally been doing in past, that we set up a log, a syslog server, collect all the logs, push it to the SIEM tool, have some certain correlation engines, rules created, and then identify the incidents out of it and see is there any security criticality incidents which we need to probably focus upon, and then take it forward towards its root cause, identifying the entry point, the probably the assessment where it is probably has gone spread its wing to with its threat element. So all this, while we're doing in the current so much fast world that we are so much fast, we are transforming digitally. Government is forcing, regulations are forcing. Likewise, I today know in our company, we are SEBI regulated companies, both. One is RBI, NBFC regulated. And the kind of regulation change that they have brought in last 9 months is heavy. And keeping a pace with such kind of speed, if we continue to look from the traditional way, and not going to help you at all. So you need to have the black hat mindset to enter yourself in that and put your strategy and architecture in such a way that you become more proactive in every action before even regulator forces or a best practice forces or industry force, whatever the force before that, how you can act individually and your team as a security leader to secure your enterprise from your own efforts. And then of course you will have all the support of tools, may not be there of support of tools. And Reji was mentioning very clearly the configuration part is very important, baseline configuration, because that is a minimum baseline that probably you can avoid the misconfiguration. So there are small things but are very foundational, fundamental stuff. Then Navin very rightly mentioned, as well as Ravi covered, the identity management is a very risky part while in COVID. So unless and until you don't recognize your employee or your legitimate user connecting to your enterprise resources, whether it is a cloud, on-premise or a multi-cloud, whichever the accessibility can be, how can you, from the security perspective, identify the identity, authenticate and authorize for the accessibility? Is a very important point with both of them that which they have said, and I emphasize on that. And how we can probably enable multi-factor authentication, whichever tools that you have, or probably look for certain tools, and how you can create a score pattern, a risk score pattern, which I would say every user or every identity and a device, we have to have a distinctive scoring mechanism, and there are multiple tools are available in the market for doing so instead of doing it manually, by which you keep the baseline risk score. If this risk score is below that, then I allow the access, otherwise I don't allow. And rightly mentioned by Ravi, the SOAR kind of tools which helps from incident response related. So there are automation with artificial intelligence and machine learning, by which you can identify the risk posture of a device as well as the user identity, and then decide what to do with the user and the device, whether you want to admit or you won't want to admit. You want to put them into quarantine or isolation zone, and then probably let the security team or check on those devices and the identity. And if it finds it meets the baseline criteria, then you allow them, otherwise you do not allow them. That is a base level of defense that probably you can adopt. So what I always seen, because I have learned the ISO 27001 or ISMS, and also I have learned and I do practice on BCMS. ISMS is of course is there from security, but BCMS is the basic principle which teaches you is BCMS is business continuity and the resiliency management. That how you can become more proactive and how more you can become more preventive. These are the two dharmas probably I think we all should now follow going forward. How we can be more proactive and how can be more preventive in nature, and avoid multiple threat landscape to reduce their areas of landscape, and probably mitigate those areas, and probably then on that mitigated areas you can probably keep a focus by using 80-20 principle of removing the false positives from all the automation of artificial intelligence and machine learning from the tools, and all this, when I say the entire this SOAR, EDR, endpoint management, server endpoint management, vulnerability, like I think Nitish or someone has said, or Tushar or someone, that we need to look at the threat hunting. Of course, so we need to have now continuous threat hunting and threat intelligence services. We cannot remain on a once in a year or once in a 6 month report comes as a threat report and probably we take action. Those days are gone. We have to have all proactiveness in all these areas to set up and be ready with your all shields and weapons, with all the fortress to create, and then probably fight in the common mitigated area to win your battle. That's what I would leave the message. And that all leads to the managed detection and response services, systems, and service providers that you should look upon.
Great. Thanks so much. So, Balaram, do you want to add anything on top of what other speakers mentioned? Okay. So let us do one thing. And let me quickly kind of summarize what are some of the top things that has come up. So there are various kinds of security control which all the speakers spoke about. Broadly, we can probably bucket them into the 5 buckets of NIST cybersecurity framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So one of the key things that has come up as some of the sentiments is that we need to be more proactive. We need to have a black hat kind of mindset. Now, outside of that, the few key things on the tech side that has come up would be how do we leverage the existing set of technologies, tie them together in such a way so that we can get more of effectiveness out of it. And if you have to do things like that, we need these tools to talk to each other. So there comes SOAR as a capability. So also having a very high focus on detection and response, and overall the idea had been, which is the common kind of sentiment across all the speakers, is that the traditional SOC or traditional SIEM is not enough. We need to think more in terms of moving to MDR kind of model, where we have this integrated stack of SOAR, SIEM, also threat hunting as one of the capabilities which has come up, using AI and ML to reduce false positives, to have better detection. And also few other things that came up is detecting the kind of perimeter and the risks associated with it, the endpoint and risks associated with it, identity and access management, as well as multi-factor authentication. So these are quite a lot of things that has come up. I know this is a lot of stuff, but it gives us an idea about what are the top things which are in the minds of some of the best minds in the country in cybersecurity. So hopefully this kind of information helps us to get a perspective on others' thoughts, so that we can also prioritize, or we can at least get an outlook of how others are thinking. So out of these thousands of controls which we can have in cybersecurity, which are some of the few which we should focus on? And if we have to think on that prioritization or focus, I guess the discussion which we had today with all of you is very, very helpful, because you kind of provided those high level prioritization out of those possible hundreds or thousands of controls. So thanks all of you on this. So we will quickly kind of sum it up with a few of you on what are some of the success and failure factors when it comes to implementing an effective security program, specifically with more focus on detection and response. Let me start with Naveen, and then we'll probably have a chat with a few more speakers, and we will close with that. So Naveen, what are some of the success and failure factors that comes to your mind?
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think the primary challenge everybody is facing is the same, right? The IT landscape is changing, the risk landscape is changing, the attack landscape is changing. So there's so much to monitor, so much to figure out what is happening. But on the other hand, you're limited by dropping revenues and limited budget, right? So or trying to do more with less budget. So I think that's most customers, clients we talk to, I think are in the same this thing, saying while we want to do a lot more from a security perspective, but unfortunately the economic scenarios in company or in country don't let you do all of what you want to do, kinds, right? So you have limited money, limited budgets you can spend on whatever you can, kind. And in that context, I think the key in my mind is going back to the basic principles of doing a risk assessment, right? I mean, is to figure out what are your critical risks and then focus on how to fix that part of it, because you do not have the budget or the resources or the skills to do everything that you want. There are a lot of technologies you can, if you have the money, invest, but a lot of us are not in that position to do that. So you'll have to pick your top three in that sense, saying what are my key risk areas and what do you want to invest in, kinds. And if you had to bet on that, my first take is, I mean, if you consider detect and response part of it, response is still a smaller problem to solve, right? Because once you've detected an incident or an alert, you broadly know where is it, what it is, right? And you can take action around it. The detect part of the problem is a bigger problem to address, right? Because you have so much area to cover, you don't know, have you been breached, have you not been breached, if you're breached, what has affected, are you getting breached? So the detect is a lot bigger problem to solve than the response side of it. So I'd focus more on the detect side of it. Whatever solutions you can implement on the detect side cover most of your IT landscape. SIM is, I know people mentioned, and it does a lot of things well, good. But things like EDR, things like deception, some of the other newer analytic solutions which help you detect, I think those would be a bigger focus area for us. Because once you detect, you can still do something about it. Even if it takes a few hours or a days, you're still in a better shape. But if you don't detect, I think then there's nothing you can do, kind of. So my first take in terms of solving this would be to figure out what can you do on the scale up the detect side of it, ensure that you're collecting telemetry from everything and everything possible, kind. So at least you can detect it right.
Thanks, Navin. That's actually a great point. Detection is a harder problem to solve and also more important. So, Rijo, anything that you want to add which is important from the perspective of success factor or failure factor?
Yeah, thanks, Bikash. So almost on line with what we just now heard, I think I'm looking at something, as simple as increased visibility. So, we have our integrations, we have our log detections, we have our log monitorings, but how effective is that and how much visibility are we really getting? In fact, one of the key success factors, we tried to improve this. So we did some red teaming and purple teaming. And also we had a complete tabletop review, which we are right now undertaking to see if all of our devices are covered. Is there enough logging which is happening? Again, back to basics, because that is where it starts from. And then, if there is anything additional we can do. So while internal benchmarkings have been done, can we do an additional external benchmarkings to see that all the devices that we have, it is giving us the appropriate visibility it should. That is the line of action that we have taken, and I think that is one of our key success factors that we should look at.
Great, wonderful. Thanks, Rijo. And Nitish, do you want to add something?
No, I think pretty much the panel is covered. I think, yeah, the success factor, right? It's terms of a lot of data that we get, right? How do we are intelligent enough to eliminate false positive? That was the point we discussed yesterday, and be, have a really good threat intel to actually focus our time and energy on real exact incidents, right? Because a lot of data is generated, and most of the time, 60-70% of the false positive, and the teams actually waste time in analyzing that and then determine it's false positive. So I think, yeah, a good threat intel is what would be a good success factor.
Great. And anything from Anand? Anand, do you want to add anything on the success and failure factor?
See, the success is how much, the criteria is how soon can we identify something and, mitigate. first of all, identifying itself takes a quite lot of time. So success will be how soon can you identify and mitigate it.
So time to detect, or time to identify. That's an important point. Thanks, Anand. And Amit, do you want to add anything in terms of either the success factor or the architecture?
I think more or less everything is covered, but I will like to share one thing what Rachel has also shared, that how we are going to protect our crown jewels, because that is something which is very, very business critical. So what kind of a security layer you have to protect your crown jewels, what kind of a defense in depth mechanism you have. So suppose one layer is failing, how you're protecting with the help of another layer of security. So pretty much clear about all those things. Threat intelligence is one of the key area which is something which we can improve on. That is something we really require to look at. And most important part is that how we can automate the security alerts which we are getting, how we can actually, create a mechanism where prevention is the top priority rather than detection. Obviously, detection will be remain as the highest priority, but how we can actually prevent the attacks which are coming to us on a real-time basis with the help of automation. So these are some of the things which are very, very critical and which I am looking out for.
Great, wonderful. And anybody else, Ravi or Umesh, do you want to add any thoughts before we close today?
I can, what I say probably, while security team working, many organization has a common security people within the IT team, but some of the organization have, due to regulatory reason, aligned with the risk team or compliance team. So what I say, you need to, in such particular organization, you need to have enterprise level risk team by which everyone is probably contributing towards identifying the asset inventory, including the APIs, critical asset, information asset, data asset, whatever, all kind of assets that you have. And then, as rightly Navin said, you need to have the risk assessment carried out and identify what is the top 3, top 5 key risk factors, as well as the critical applications and the resources which you need to probably put across the advanced level of protection. And I think accordingly you should put it across your strategy, architecture, and accordingly probably you will get the even budget approval once you are able to put the board what kind of risk assessment is done and what is the kind of a loss it may occur if we do not probably know, and even if we know and if we undergo the threat.
Thanks, Umesh. And Ravi, any closing remark?
Yeah, so because I mean, we all have understood one thing, and it's simple. We need to understand what we're trying to solve. Naveen very rightly mentioned a risk assessment is the need of the hour, because we just can't try finding solutions to questions that we're not aware of. So, when we build any of such kind of a response process or detection process, the best thing to start with is a use case. And use case is actually nothing else but what we are looking to solve, the problem. And that is where the journey starts. So have a good risk assessment done, understand what are your top priorities, have a balance of technology, people who can work on these technologies, and the process which can help all of them work in the right manner. So basically, an orchestrated environment where you can have guys doing their tasks, technologies doing their automated activities, and thus reducing the simple thing, the mean time to detect. And everybody has agreed, the moment we are able to detect, we can respond to it. But till the time we don't know what's happening, we can't do anything about it. So it's all about reducing the time to detect, and then we can take actions and respond. So all in all, we need to understand what we are actually trying to solve.
Great, wonderful, Ravi. And Umesh, were you trying to add anything more on top of what?
Yeah, what I just wanted to give an example. We'll have to build a castle. every castle has a multi-layer defense, and you generally fight the war in the respective areas with the strength that you already built in that particular circle or that particular area. So that is where probably just the last message that I would like to probably give. So look like that you are building a castle and build those multi-layer security architecture and a strategy and actions, and supported by all these inputs that we all been given based on our knowledge and experience. And that's where I close.
That's a great analogy. Great. So let me quickly summarize. So we in terms of the success and failure factor, there are a lot of interesting points that came up. And things like prevention as one of the elements, building defense in depth, building a castle, or also creating asset inventory. And at the same time, one of the key points that emerged out of this is that detection is super important when it comes to response and recovery, because if we don't detect, we can't respond and recover. We also had some speakers talking about doing the red teaming, purple teaming, doing tabletop drills to understand the effectiveness of current controls and making it better. False positives came up as one of the key challenges, which could be a failure factor. Having the right threat intel and working on the reducing the time to detect, reducing time to identify. So these are some of the interesting success and failure factors that has emerged out of this discussion. So I believe there's a lot of very powerful points that has come up in terms of the top challenges, the top attack vectors, architecture, as well as the success and failure factors. And what I see as a great value in terms of a discussion of this kind is that we are actually able to get an insight in terms of how others are thinking, because it's not that an individual cannot read up and know all the possible cybersecurity controls, but then as a community, when we get together and when we see how others are prioritizing, what are the top 3, 5, or 6 things they are doing, that actually serves as tremendous value. It creates a lot of kind of reinforcement whether we are doing it right. So I actually want to thank all of you for your contribution, because what you have done, I believe, has helped all of us in this group for sure, but also not just within this group. This discussion will also help beyond the group of all the participants today. We will also try to write some blog and share it with the broader community. So I want to thank all of you for making this contribution, for being part of the community. And these are interesting times. Adverse times makes us stronger. So I believe and I hope all of us will emerge stronger through this adversity. Thanks all of you. Thanks all of you for being part of CISO Platform. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Vikash.
Thank you so much,
Vikash.
Thank you, Shital, CISO Platform, and Vikash, and the other esteemed panelists and the attendees joined. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a nice day.